Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
It is good to be back.
Today is going to be a little different. Usually we are wading through, dense sociological text or political theory, trying to parse the real world. But today, we are taking those same analytical tools, that same rigor, and pointing them at a piece of fiction, specifically Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games trilogy.
Which is actually, I think, a perfect laboratory for us.
How so?
No, fiction allows us to see the architecture of a system more clearly than reality does sometimes. In the real world, politics it's messy.
Right.
There's noise, there are infinite variables, there's history we don't know. But in a constructed narrative like Panem, the author, in a way, acts as a scientist.
Okay, I like that. A laboratory.
Yeah. They isolate the variables, scarcity, media, violence, and they run a simulation to see how those things interact in a closed loop. We get to see the mechanics of control laid bare.
Exactly. And just to set the expectations for everyone listening, this is not a book review.
Yeah.
We aren't going to talk about Team PETA versus Team Gale or rate the movie adaptations.
Yeah.
We aren't doing a fandom deep dive.
No. We are treating the trilogy, The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay as a single longitudinal case study. It's a study of a closed system. We are looking at the mechanics.
The mechanics of control.
That's it. How does a system like Panem maintain equilibrium? What happens when it destabilizes? And perhaps most chillingly, how does it attempt to restabilize itself under a new guise?
It's a system arc.
Yeah.
And frankly, when you stop looking at the love triangle and start looking at the logistics, this story becomes terrifying in a completely different way.
It really does.
To understand that arc, we have to start with the geography, the architecture of Panem itself. Because when you strip away the romance and the costumes, what you have is a machine designed for one thing.
Enforced dependency.
That's the word.
That is the foundational mechanic. Panem isn't just a country. It's a logistical supply chain that is deliberately broken. You have the capital in the center, which consumes.
And the districts on the periphery, which produce.
Right. But the genius, if you can call it that, of the system is that the districts aren't allowed to be self-sufficient. They are specialized mono-economies.
Right. District 12 is coal, and that is all it is.
Exactly. District 12 mines the coal, but they don't have the infrastructure to process it or use it for their own wealth. They export the raw material and get, crumbs back.
And District 11 grows the food, but they're not allowed to eat the harvest. I mean, that's just...
It's a classic colonial model, really. If you keep every district specialized, no single district can survive on its own.
So it prevents secession.
It prevents any kind of unified action. If District 12 rebels, they freeze and starve. If District 4, the fishing district, rebels, they might have fish, but they have no power, no medicine. Dependency is the first and strongest chain.
And that brings us to the most effective weapon the capital has. And it's not what you think. It's not the peacekeepers.
No, not the soldiers.
It's not the hovercrafts or the genetic mutations. It's calories.
Scarcity as governance, it's the bedrock of their power.
Let's look at District 12 specifically, because Collins is so specific about the sensory details of the scene. It's not just poor.
No, it's a deep, grinding poverty.
It's defined by coal dust.
Yeah.
It's in the wrinkles of the elderly. It's under their nails. But the thing that really struck me in this reread was the tesserae system.
Oh, it's diabolical.
It's weaponized poverty.
That's exactly it.
I want to break down the math of this because it's easy to miss how truly evil it is. So every year, a child's name is entered into the reaping ball of the lottery for the games.
Yeah.
Once for every year of their age. That's the baseline.
Right. So at 12 years old, your name is in once. At 18, it's in 7 times. That's the basic risk of just being alive there.
But if you are starving, which almost everyone in the scene is, you can opt to have your name entered additional times. Each extra entry gives you a tesserae.
Which is a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. It's barely enough to live on.
And you can do this for every member of your family. So Katniss, trying to feed her mother and sister, has her name in that ball. What, dozens of times?
Dozens. And just think about the psychology of that. The state is forcing the poor to gamble with their children's lives to obtain the basic biological fuel to keep living.
You are literally trading safety for survival.
And it does something else, too, something socially strategic.
It breaks class solidarity. I realized this when looking at how Katniss views Peeta's family, the Bakers. They're the merchant class in District 12.
And they generally don't need the tesserae. Their kids' names go in the minimum number of times.
which creates this immediate built-in resentment, doesn't it?
Hmm.
The poor resent the merchants for being safer. The merchants might look down on the poor.
Of course. It prevents the district from unifying. If you're busy resenting your neighbor because his odds of dying are lower than your kids, you aren't looking up at the capital who set the odds in the first place.
It keeps the entire population in survival mode. I mean, when you are waking up every day wondering how to get enough calories to not pass out, you do not have the cognitive bandwidth to organize a revolution.
Precisely. Scarcity is the wall that keeps the body weak. But that's only half the equation. You need something to keep the mind occupied.
You need the spectacle.
You need the games.
The games are obviously the central metaphor of the series, but they serve a sort of dual purpose. On the surface, the Capitol claims they are part of the Treaty of Treason.
Right, the official story.
They market them as a reminder of the dark days, the first rebellion that happened 75 years prior. They say, look what happens when you fight us. We have the power to take your children.
It's a raw display of dominance. It's pure terror. But the real question is, why televise it? Why make it mandatory viewing?
That's the part that gets me. It's not just an execution, it's a festival.
Because terror alone isn't enough. You need complicity. By turning the death of children into a televised sporting event, the Capitol achieves this incredible psychological disconnect.
And it works differently on different populations, right?
Exactly. The citizens of the districts are forced to watch as a punishment. But think about the citizens at the Capitol. For them, it isn't a punishment.
It's a reality show.
The biggest reality show of the year. They bet on the players. They obsess over the costumes, the interviews, the romance angles.
It is the ultimate distraction. If you are debating whether Katniss's dress is prettier than the girl from District 1, or you're checking the betting odds on the boy from District 2.
You aren't thinking about the fact that both of them are about to be murdered by the state. You focus on the drama of the deaths, not the structure causing the deaths.
It completely shifts the audience's gaze from the systemic cause to the individual tragedy.
And it's all wrapped up in this illusion of choice.
The reaping, that phrase they always use, may the odds be ever in your favor.
As if it's just bad luck. As if it's a natural disaster, like a hurricane or a flood, rather than a deliberate government policy. And all the ritual around it, the stage, the microphone, the fishbowl, it gives the veneer of fairness to an act of, well, butchery.
There's another detail about the Capitol's control that always stuck with me, and it's a bit of a smaller one, but
yeah.
The avoxes.
Ah, yes, the servants.
The servants with their tongues cut out.
It's symbolic literalism, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so on the nose. If you dissent, we don't just kill you. We turn you into a silent servant of the very system you opposed. We erase your ability to speak, to name your own reality.
It is the total negation of the individual.
Absolutely.
So we have this machine. Scarcity keeps them weak. The games keep them distracted and afraid. The geographic separation keeps them isolated. But the system is fragile. And we see that so clearly in the second book, Catching Fire.
We do.
President Snow visits Katniss in her home in Victor's village, and he says something very, very revealing.
The girl who was on fire. A spark.
Right. He admits that the whole thing is brittle. He says if she isn't contained, it could lead to an inferno. And this implies that fear alone isn't working anymore.
Because a system based purely on fear is unstable. It's brittle. It snaps under pressure. A truly resilient authoritarian system needs a mixture of fear and hope.
Oh.
And that is the role of the victor. The victor is the proof that you can survive. If you play by the rules, if you are strong enough or smart enough or ruthless enough, the system will let you live. It creates a lottery ticket mentality.
And that's why the victory tour is so crucial. In Catching Fire, Katniss has to go on this tour halfway between the games. I used to think it was just a plot device to show us the other districts, but it's actually a specific mechanism of control.
It's strategically placed, isn't it? Just when the horror of the game starts to fade from memory, they parade the victors through the districts. It's a fresh reminder of the Capitol's grip.
But notice how they treat the victor. They aren't heroes.
Oh, not at all. They are possessions.
Katniss mentions that she has to stand there and look into the faces of the families whose children she killed. I mean, the psychological torture of that.
It does two things. It re-traumatizes the districts, and it completely isolates the victor. It ensures the victor can never truly go back to being one of the people. They belong to the Capitol now. They're elevated just enough to be separated from their community, but not nearly enough to ever be safe.
And we see that isolation mechanism everywhere. District 12 knows almost nothing about District 11.
Mm-hmm.
Electronic communication is totally controlled. And then there's the ultimate boogeyman.
District 13.
The ghost story.
Yes. The Capitol keeps the memory of District 13's obliteration alive to say, this is the alternative to our rule, total annihilation. It's the ultimate threat used to keep the other districts in line. You might hate us, but look what happened to them.
But there's another layer to this control, and it brings us to Plutarch Evansby.
The head game maker.
He's the head game maker in the second book, and later a rebel leader, which is a whole other thing. But he explains the concept of penemet circenses to Katniss.
Bred in circuses.
This is a crucial pivot in understanding the system, I think, because the Capitol doesn't just oppress the districts.
No, it sedates its own citizens. We have to look at the Capitol citizens not just as cartoon villains, but as a different kind of victim of the system.
Can we talk about the vomiting scene?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the moment in the books where the class disparity hit me the hardest.
The banquet in the Capitol, yes.
Katniss and Peeta are at this party where the food is it's overflowing, tables and tables of delicacies, and Katniss is full, and her prep team suggests she take a special liquid so she can vomit and keep eating.
It creates this visceral revulsion in Katniss and, by extension, in the reader.
It's grotesque. In District 12, people are literally dying because they don't have bread. In the Capitol, they are vomiting perfectly good food just for the sensation of eating more.
But it serves a systemic function. The citizens are fed this constant stream of excess and entertainment so that they abdicate political responsibility. If you keep the belly full and the screen bright, people won't ask who is running the machine.
They're pampered pets.
Rendered politically impotent by their own comfort.
So we have this perfect closed loop of oppression. It seems unbreakable. But then we get the glitch.
Katniss Everdeen.
And it is so vital to understand Katniss, not as a chosen one in the traditional fantasy sense. She isn't the heir to a throne. She isn't a Jedi.
No, she's an uncontrolled signal. She is a variable the system just didn't account for.
And it starts with the berries. At the end of the first book, when she and Peter are the last two left, the rules say one must die, and Katniss pulls out the poisonous nightlock berries.
She threatens a double suicide.
That moment is the singularity, isn't it? The system relies on the participants playing the game. It relies on the survival instinct overriding everything else.
By threatening suicide, Katniss wasn't fighting the Capitol with a sword. She was refusing the premise of the game entirely. She was saying, you do not own my death. You don't get to write this ending. And that breaks the narrative of absolute control.
And the system panics. Seneca Crane, the game maker, lets them both live because they need a victor. They need that hope we talked about. But the moment they do that, they've shown weakness.
They blinked.
They blinked.
And once the system blinks, the illusion of omnipotence is shattered. If they can be forced to change the rules once, they can be forced to change them again. The spell is broken.
So how does power react? It tries to change the narrative. This is the containment strategy. They try to frame the Barry incident not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of insanity.
Specifically, the star-crossed lovers angle. If Katniss did it because she was crazy with love for Peeta, then it's not political, it's a romance.
And romance is safe.
Romance fits neatly into the reality TV format. It sells, it doesn't threaten the state.
And Katniss tries to play along. In Catching Fire, she's trying so hard to sell this love story to save her family. She's terrified. But it doesn't work. The signal has already gone out.
And when that narrative containment fails, the system resorts to just brute force revisionism.
The Quarter Quell.
The 75th Hunger Games. The rules are conveniently read from a sealed envelope that says the tributes for this special anniversary games will be reaped from the existing pool of victors.
Which is so obviously rigged. It's transparent. It's the system changing its own laws simply to delete the glitch. They need Katniss dead.
But they need her to die inside the game so it looks like part of the show. It's an attempt to reassert control over the narrative.
It proves that the law in Panem is totally arbitrary. Power does whatever it needs to do to survive. But by dragging all the victors back in, they inadvertently radicalized the only group of people who had the influence to actually hurt them.
They created a super team of rebels. These people are celebrities. They have social capital. The average tribute doesn't.
And speaking of symbols, we have to talk about the Mockingjay itself. The bird. It's such a perfect metaphor for this whole system failure idea.
It really is. The Mockingjay is an accident. The Capitol created these creatures called jabberjays, genetically modified birds designed to spy on rebels and record entire conversations during the dark days.
Spies with wings.
Basically. But when the rebels figured it out, the Capitol just abandoned the birds, all male, to die out in the wild, but they didn't die.
They mated with wild mockingbirds.
And created this hybrid, a creature that can repeat songs but not words, a creature the Capitol never intended to exist, its life finding a way around the system's constraints.
So the bird itself is a failure of capital engineering.
Precisely. So when Katniss wears that pin, and later when she becomes the Mockingjay, she is embodying that failure of control. She is the living proof that the Capitol makes mistakes.
There's a scene in the second book when Katniss and Peeta are in District 11, Rue's district.
On the victory tour.
They see the old man whistle Rue's four-note tune, and then the whole crowd gives the three-finger salute, and the peacekeepers immediately execute the old man right there on the stage.
That is the moment the audience stops watching the show and starts watching each other. That shift in perception is more dangerous to the Capitol than any bomb.
It's the realization that we are many, they're few.
That's the spark Snow was so afraid of.
So the perception shifts, the rebellion begins, and this is where the trilogy gets really, really dark and, in my opinion, elevates itself far above standard young adult fiction.
We move to District 13.
The mirror system.
That's a great way to put it.
We spend the first two books thinking District 13 is the dream, the savior. It's the rebellion. But when we get there in Mockingjay, it's not exactly a utopia, is it?
Not even close. It's an underground bunker run by a military junta. If the Capitol is defined by grotesque excess and spectacle, District 13 is defined by rigid austerity and regimentation.
There's that detail about the tattooed schedules. Every morning you stick your arm in a machine and it stamps your daily timeline on your skin using ink. 7.0, breakfast. 8.0, training.
You are a unit of production.
Just like in the Capitol.
Exactly. In the Capitol, you are a unit of consumption or entertainment. In 13, you are a unit of the war machine. And President Coin, the leader of 13, she is the systemic reflection of President Snow.
Both demand absolute obedience. Both control the flow of information completely.
And they both use the exact same tools.
The propos. The propaganda spots the rebels film. This blew my mind on the reread. They take Katniss, they wipe off the soot and blood, put her in a specific costume designed by a stylist, give her a script, and tell her to be the Mockingjay.
It is the commodification of the symbol. The rebels are doing the exact same thing the game makers did. They are treating Katniss as an avatar, a piece in a game.
The only difference is the game maker has changed sides.
Yes. Plutarch Heavensbee, who ran the games for Snow, is now running the media campaign for Coin.
That continuity of Plutarch is so fascinating. He survives everything. He's the ultimate operator.
He represents the technocrat, the guy who runs the screens. He knows that whether it's a fascist dictatorship or a revolutionary republic, you still need to sell the narrative to the masses. The game never really ended for him. It just moved from the arena to the airwaves.
And in this new game, human beings are just resources. We see this so tragically with Peeta.
Oh, Peeta's arc is brutal.
The Capitol captures him, and they hijack him. They use Tracker-Jacker venom to systematically rewrite his memories, turning him into a weapon designed to kill Katniss.
It's the weaponization of trauma. They take the one thing that grounded Katniss Peeta's love, and they invert it. It shows that in a total systems conflict, the human mind is just terrain to be contested.
And on the flip side, the rebels use Finnick in a similar way. He was trafficked by the Capitol for years, sold for his body to wealthy citizens, and the rebels...
They put him on camera to tell all his secrets. They use his trauma as ammunition.
It effectively destroys him, but it hurts Snow, so they do it.
It's collateral damage, a necessary sacrifice for the cause.
And as the war heats up, the moral lines get so blurry you can't even see them anymore. There's the debate over the Nut in District 2.
The Mountain Fortress.
It's full of Capitol loyalists and civilians. And Gail Katniss's childhood friend, her hunting partner, proposes trapping them all inside.
Yeah.
Just burying them alive.
And Gale's argument is that it is war. He approaches it with the cold logic of a system trying to win. He calls it a nut to crack. He dehumanizes the enemy.
Katniss is horrified because she's been the one trapped in the dark. She sees the people. Gale sees the objective.
That's the split, the personal versus the systemic view.
And this leads directly to the parachutes. This is the turning point of the entire trilogy for me, and honestly, it's one of the most disturbing concepts I've ever read.
It's pure psychological horror.
Gale and BT design a bomb trap. It involves silver parachutes, just like the ones that bring gifts in the Hunger Games, but these bring explosives.
But the mechanism is specific. It's a two-stage device. The first bombs go off. They're designed to injure, not kill, a lot of people.
And then, importantly, they wait.
They wait for the medics and the first responders, the helpers, to rush in. And then the second wave of bombs goes off.
It is designed specifically to prey on compassion. It weaponizes the human instinct to help.
It is, by any definition, a war crime. It completely erases the distinction between combatant and civilian.
And this weapon is used right outside the president's mansion in the final battle. It kills a pen full of Capitol children who've been placed there for protection, and it kills the rebel medics who run in to save them. It kills
Primrose Everdeen.
Katniss's sister.
And here's the failure of moral clarity, the absolute collapse. Katniss realizes that the bomb that killed her sister, the sister she volunteered for in Book 1, starting this entire chain of events, likely didn't come from Snow.
It came from her own side. It came from Gale's design. It came from the rebels.
That revelation just guts you. The rebellion achieved its goal. They won the war, but they did it by sacrificing the very moral foundation they were supposedly standing on.
They became the thing they were fighting.
Which leads to the most chilling scene in the entire series. It's not a battle, it's a meeting.
The vote on the 76th Hunger Games.
I remember reading this for the first time and having to put the book down.
The war is over. Snow is captured. President Coin is in charge. And Coin gathers the surviving victors around a table. It's just a handful of them left. Katniss, Peeta, Haymitch.
The scene is suffocating. You expect them to discuss peace, reconstruction. But Coin proposes one final Hunger Games, a symbolic one.
Using the Capitol's children.
For the sake of balance, she says. She argues that the districts need to see Capitol blood to be satisfied. For closure.
This is the ultimate proof of the system loop. The revolutionaries, immediately upon seizing power, attempt to reproduce the exact mechanism of oppression they had just fought to destroy.
Power seeks to perpetuate itself through the same symbols. Coin thinks, the games worked for Snow to keep the districts down. They will work for me to keep the Capitol down.
And the victors have to vote. Peeta is horrified. He screams, "No!" But then, the others.
Beria and Johanna vote yes. They want revenge. They're still trapped in the trauma response of the system.
And then Haymitch looks at Katniss. He says, "I'm with the Mockingjay." And Katniss votes yes.
This is the most misunderstood moment in the books, I think. Why did she vote yes?
She says, "For Prim." But she's looking right at Coin.
It's a strategic move. It has to be. Katniss realizes in that moment that Coin is just another Snow. If Katniss votes no, Coin will see her as a threat, an obstacle to be managed.
By voting yes, Katniss makes Coin believe she is on board, that she's complicit, that she's broken and vengeful. It allows her to get close.
It allows her to get to the execution.
And she does. The final scene. Katniss is supposed to execute Snow. He's tied up to a post. The whole world is watching. And she draws her bow. And she shifts her aim.
She shoots President Coin instead.
This is the hard reset. Katniss realizes that if she kills Snow, the wheel just keeps turning with Coin at the helm. By killing Coin, the new Snow, before she can fully settle into power, Katniss forces the system to crash.
She rejects the structure of the games, not just the manager of the games. It's a profound systemic intervention.
And Snow laughs. He's choking on his own blood in the chaos, and he just laughs.
Because he realizes Katniss finally figured it out. He realizes that in the end, she broke the game for good.
So, Coin is dead. Snow dies. The war ends. But the ending, it's not a parade. It's not a celebration. Katniss goes back to District 12, which is essentially a graveyard.
No, it's deeply unresolved, which is the only honest way to end a study of systems like this. There is no magical fix. Trauma doesn't just vanish because the war is over. Katniss is repairing, but she isn't healed.
She makes that book, the plant book that her father started.
A book of memories. She pastes in drawings of the plants and photos of the people who died. She writes down the details about them so they aren't forgotten. It's a small, quiet act of preserving reality against a world that constantly tries to rewrite history.
So, putting this all together, what are the big takeaways here? If we connect this back to our crisis and perception theme, what are we really looking at?
I think first we're looking at manufactured consent. Both Snow and Coin required the populace to buy into a narrative to govern. Snow had the peacekeeper narrative, Coin had the Mockingjay. They are both just stories used to grease the gears of the machine.
Then there's scarcity narratives. We talked about this at the start.
Yeah.
Systems maintain power by artificially limiting resources. If everyone in Panem was well-fed and connected, the capital falls in a week.
You have to keep people hungry to keep them divided and afraid.
And media as governance. We cannot overstate the role of Plutarch Hevesby. He is the true winner of the Hunger Games.
He is. He survives both regimes. He helps establish the new government. It suggests that in any modern system, The one who controls the screens ultimately controls the reality.
And finally, the politics of symbols.
Yeah.
This whole thing wasn't a battle of policies. It was a battle of the rose versus the mockingjay. Aesthetic symbols became more powerful than actual armies.
Which is terrifying because symbols are so easily co-opted, right? Coin almost co-opted the Mockingjay to build her own dictatorship.
So we reached the conclusion. The trilogy reveals that replacing a dictator doesn't fix the system if the mechanics, the surveillance, the militarism, the media manipulation all remain intact.
And that's the lesson of systems over intentions. Gale had good intentions. He wanted to save lives. But the system of war he designed killed Prim. Coin intended to free Panem, but the system of power led her to plan a new Hunger Games. The structure shapes the outcome more than the individual's intent.
And Katniss, where does she end up in all this?
Katniss ends up as a survivor, not a ruler. She survives the game. And I think the final thought she leaves us with is that the game is the constant struggle to perceive reality accurately. It's our deep dive in practice. It's fighting to remember what is real, that people are people, not symbols, not resources, in a system designed to distort that fundamental truth.
There is no happily ever after. There is only the quiet work of remembering.
There are much worse games to play, she says, and after seeing the system, you know she's right.
Well, that is a lot to process. But that is why we do this. This deep dive was based on the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins. We encourage you to read the books to see the system in its full detail. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.